Welcome to Lemoore City Council Chambers located at 429 C Street. This is the April 16th City Council meeting. Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy to those in attendance. Thank you. If you could please stand for the invocation by Kimberly Nelson of Lifeway Church and remain standing for the flag salute.
Father God, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, Lord, to come before you. We dedicate this meeting unto you, Father God. And Lord Jesus, we ask that you would lower a standard, Father God, around this place. Lord God, your warring angels to protect every person in this place, to protect the city of Lemoore. Father God, to protect the citizens, Lord God. We ask, Father God, that you would give our leaders that you have chosen by name and have placed in their seats in this place, Father God. You have handpicked them. And I ask, Father God, for your protection over each one of them. I ask for your protection over our mayor, Father God, that you would bless her and her family, Father God, and each member of this city council, Lord, for you have chosen them, Lord God. And I ask you, Lord, to lead them and guide them in the way that they should go. And bless our good people of this community, Lord. We release this meeting into your hands, and we trust you, Father God, that you are going to lead and we will follow. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Councilmember Garza,
Present.
Councilmember Lyons.
Here.
Councilmember Orth,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gornick,
Here.
and Mayor Matthews.
Present.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda approval additions and or deletions. We're going to go ahead and remove the closed session for today. Council has informed me that there's no new information, so we're going to take that for tonight. Study session item 1-1, annual golf course update.
Mr. Vaca. Present
Wasn't
that.
sure how to say that, sorry.
It's all right.
Bocce, like bocce ball.
Bocce, okay.
Good evening, council, mayor. My name is Dan Bocce with Sierra Golf Management. Marissa's gonna hand out a brief update for you. The Sierra Golf Management is a golf management company that operates 17 golf courses in California and Nevada, and we are based in the Central Valley, and we are the lessee of the city-owned Lemoore Golf Course, which you folks here in Lemoore own. The city asked me to do an update annually, and I'm here tonight to give you a brief update and answer any questions for the council. The paper in front of you, little brief kind of synopsis of what's going on right now at the golf course. If you see in 2022, there were 33,951 rounds played. In 2023, 33,010 rounds for a negative difference of 2.8%. We view it as a minor blip because if you recall last winter, late winter and early spring, we had flooding and quite a bit of weather. So we don't see that 900 rounds as a big blip on the radar for us. I took those rounds and went into the point of sale system and did a little breakdown of who's playing Lemoore Golf Course. We don't track by age or demographics when we sign people in, but we do give senior discounts and military discounts. So the biggest portion of our rounds was 8,099 rounds, or 24.5%. We're either a senior or someone getting a senior discount or a military discount, which is common for Lemoore. The next segment is people that have a monthly pass or a frequent player program. And in a minute, I'll kind of go over those programs. We're 16% of those rounds. Online bookings, we don't know. We don't get a lot of information when people book online. They book and pay online, so we don't know a lot about them, but they were 12% of the rounds. And then we threw in the kids and the high school and middle school teams that play out at the golf course, and they came up to 5.5% of the rounds played. In the department revenues, we saw increases in the driving range of 12%, which is a national trend. There's a lot more people taking up the game. You see these TrackMan and studio golf places popping up. More people are just getting out and hitting balls, maybe not out on the course yet, but they're coming into the game by the driving range or some sort of studio golf. Our food and beverage was up 8% and our merchandise sales were up 4%. So that was kind of a nice little bump this past year. If you look at what our rates are compared to our competitors, right across the first line weekday, we're at $55. That's a green fee and cart fee during the week. We're just below Valley Oaks, Tulare, quite a bit below Ridge Creek, slightly above Madera and Riverside, which is right where we want to be in our area. Weekend, same thing. Senior and military discounts that they have. Again, we're right below Valley Oaks, Tulare, Ridge Creek, and Madera. So we're not the most expensive, but we're certainly not the cheapest. We're right where we need to be. If you look at page 2, this is a copy of our current monthly pass and frequent player programs. Those 16% of the people of those rounds that are played, that is someone that has one of these programs. They either pay monthly or annually. And as you can see here, we have everything from $129.95 for a 4-day monthly. That's Monday to Thursday. And these are unlimited plans, by the way. They can play every day if they want. On up to Evolution Couples, which gets a husband and wife, unlimited green fees for the month with rental of a cart at no charge. So there's something for just about everyone. The other one that you don't see on here is the junior program that we have, and it's pretty much the best that I've heard around. It's $99 for a year for a person under the age of 18 to play unlimited golf for the year, $99. And I'm not sure that we've ever turned a kid away that couldn't afford the $99.
Before you go to the next page, can you explain 7-day monthly, the difference between that and the 7-day in and out?
Sure. So a monthly means you're committed to a year that you're going to pay every month for a year. The 7-day in and out is more money. That's if you choose to pick and choose your months. Let's say you're a school teacher and you're going to
Summer
do
only.
June, July, and August. You're going to pay a little more, but you're not committed for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Whereas the monthly is committed for at least a 1-year period.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we've been here since July of 2021, when we took over at Lemoore, and we continue to invest in the course by addressing deferred maintenance items as well as capital improvements. City staff receives annually our capital project expenditures and backup documentation, which is part of the contract that we have with you. I didn't bring a copy, but if you have, Marissa has a copy, I believe, that she gets every year. So some of the things that may or may not be on there, I just threw down some things. So we installed Bermuda greens at the golf course when we got here in 2021. So they're not new anymore. Now they're 3 years old, or they'll be 3 years old in July. So all of those putting surfaces now are being dethatched on a regular basis and aerified annually. Yes, sir.
When you say detach regularly, is that annually or semi-annually?
Monthly.
Monthly.
It's a light process where we do what's called verticutting. So normally the blade of the grass, you clip the top with a rotary mower. This is the slicing is this way. So the mower goes this way and it almost cuts a little groove and takes out what we call thatch or organic material. And then we do a really light top dress. So it's no impact on play. The aerification process that we do in July is different. That's where we take out a large core and pound them with sand, and that is also dethatching. In a way, you're taking out a lot of material and adding in sand to the profile.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The pump station, we've done work on the irrigation pump station, installed butterfly valves, and the system was coming on and off frequently, and we did some work on the pump station itself. The main irrigation well, we rehabbed the wells on hole 2 and 9. They were old and abandoned, and we just got a little more water. I'm just have another water source. This past year, the HVAC went out on the clubhouse, so we installed a new Rude. I don't know if it's Rude or Rudd. I never know that, but a new 4-ton heat pump on the roof. Nobody wants to be in Lemoore in July without air conditioning. We've been working this past year on irrigation improvements on holes 14 and 15. We added in about 300 feet of new heads and irrigation and replaced satellite boxes. Those are those boxes you'll see standing on the course. They're basically what you have in your garage that turns your lawn on, except it communicates with the central system. And we also we had a problem with our canal water source. There was a leak in the canal going from the canal to our irrigation pond. So we replaced that concrete and put in a new pipe so we could continue to get water from the canal. Last year, we got water for the entire season from the irrigation district, and this year looks like it's going to be another good year. So we need that tie-in to be functioning properly. We've got some leagues and promotions out there right now. We've been working with the Tachi Palace Casino. They've been having a couple big tournaments every year with us, and it's been good for the golf course, good for them. And we've now come into an agreement to do a play and stay package with the casino. Every Saturday from 9 to 10 is the Little Linksters Junior program. I believe it's $60 for a 5-week session, and they could go every 5 weeks if they want, and every Saturday from 9 to 10, and it's taught by the pros at the golf course. Trying to get kids out there. Tuesday nights, league night. For those maybe a little more regular golfers that want to play in a league and play in a competitive setting on Tuesday nights, they play against other teams. Wednesday night is the 9-hole scramble. That's open to everybody and anybody that wants to come out, and they'll pair you up with people. And then Thursday night, we just started with a company called Spark Golf. They're nationwide now, and they are all about social golf. So trying to get people out to socialize at the golf course, and they're on Thursday nights out at the golf course. Couple things hanging out there from last year when I was here. Last year, we talked about a couple things. One was solar. And these last 2 items are tied in. I can't do them myself kind of thing because I don't own the property. So we've done some investigating into solar, and I did talk to Mr. Northcraft earlier, and we're going to get together and see who we can possibly talk about doing a solar project out at the golf course. Obviously, when we're long gone, you'll still be here, and the solar project would stay with the property. It wouldn't go with us. And then the other item that we had from last year that's carried over was the netting for the senior center. So we talked about that last year, and it never really materialized. I think last year we talked about we would provide the net if maybe the city could get the lift trucks out there. My insurance guy doesn't want my guys on lift trucks or ladders over a certain height. We're not qualified to do that sort of work, but if the city has that type of asset that they could put to us, we can purchase the netting and go from there. So with that, I have any questions that you'd like to ask?
I have a question for your leagues and promotions. You guys ever considered night golf?
We've done it at other places. It's gets a little rowdy at times and a little dangerous with golf carts and and alcohol and people out there, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Water.
I love that.
Water
They used to have it down at Jackson. I
at
love,
Jackson Lakes.
Yeah. that was a long time ago.
Mr. Bocci, how often are you actually at the golf course?
Personally, or
Yeah.
someone from our corporate office?
Personally, you?
Personally, every month or two.
Oh, okay. I was just curious if you were the actual person, you know, the owner operator type, or if you were. Who's the day-to-day person?
Oh, Tim Huber. Tim Huber is the head professional, the general manager, and he's on site. And then Chad Jackson is our regional vice president.
So are those two fellows, Tim and Chad, are they there quite a bit or no?
Tim's there daily.
And Chad,
Chad, like me,
okay.
every month or so. Or as needed.
You know, just a comment aesthetically, from my point of view, it's really been an improvement. That you guys have been able to do. How's it working from your point of view, both financially as well as?
Financially, it's been good. I think people are appreciating, you know, for years past, they would play on greens that weren't, you know, they'd be good for certain times of the year
Mhm.
and very inconsistent. And in the summertime, really rough. But you can get away with a lot in golf, but if your greens are bad, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
People won't come back. And that was the first thing we did was the new greens, and we redid the bunkers, of course, too, in the very first. So those first two things helped, and you know, we get a lot of positive feedback coming back from people.
You got a few places out there where there's, you know, pretty much 10, 15 feet of just dirt. What are your plans for those areas?
We just hit them one at a time,
Okay,
and you know, try and propagate common Bermuda, because that's what wants to grow out. You know, in the valley, that's what grows well. A lot of those places maybe have hard pan or hard to grow or don't have proper irrigation. So irrigation first, make sure it's getting water, and then second, break it up. Maybe use soil amendments if you have to.
so
And
the area that you have set aside for debris on just south of 198 there, on the, what would that be, the second or third?
hole.
oh, in the middle there by the
Yeah.
6T?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's green waste.
Greenways? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a permanent site for you, or just kind
It
of?
seems like it never, we keep loading the bin and it just keeps piling up.
Well, the trees are looking good. I mean, they look well.
We've been pruning a lot of them, but yeah, green waste is, you know, the old days you built, you know, you'd pile it up and set a match to it, but nowadays it has to be hauled off, and it's,
I didn't
takes
know
up
if
a
you were
lot of
creating
room.
your own mulch with it or anything like that.
pardon me?
I didn't know if you were creating your own mulch with it or anything. Like
No, we haul it off.
Okay.
We have a bin out there and we fill the bin, and then we call them and they haul it off and bring it back and fill it up again.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing a lot of work out there with that green waste. That's probably good. There's probably a lot of years of neglect out there, so.
Yeah, if I ever design a golf course, there won't be a tree or a bunker on it. It'll just be grass.
I think that'd be a golf course no one would play at though.
But it'd be easy to maintain.
I didn't even know there was trees out there.
So this might be a really dumb question, but do you play golf?
Yes, I'm a PGA professional.
So when was the last time you played at Lemoore?
I played in a tournament in, I think it was last June.
And how was it then?
Oh, I like it. I lived in Lemoore in the late 90s, and I was the assistant pro at Lemoore under Rich Rhodes in the 90s. So I played Lemoore all the time.
So you even remember when the old clubhouse used to be over there in the old spot, yeah, or no?
No, the clubhouse, there was no cart barn then. The cart barn was new, came after I left, but the clubhouse was the same. And I worked, my roommate was Rich Krebs from Jaspers.
Oh,
That's, so,
well, Jasper's, yeah.
but that was 25 years ago.
That was another life ago.
Oh, you were in grade school.
I don't know about grade school, but I used to work for Rich at Jaspers, but
What do you see the next capital improvement other than the solar or the netting? Is there any thought of trying to make the clubhouse have a restaurant in there maybe, where it's more of a, kind of like a Tulare?
You don't have, it would be a big project because there's no banquet facility. I mean, we have the snack bar, it's contained, it's very, very user friendly. And it serves its purpose, but when we have a large tournament, you're outside and you're subject to weather. So if you have a large tournament, you need the weather.
why don't you
Be good.
build one?
That's what I was getting at. I was saying that politely.
I'll get started on it right away.
All right, well, go ahead. All right. Hit the gavel.
Yeah, the biggies right now, I think, are solar and that netting along the first hole.
I think that netting needs to get done.
Yeah, Kevin was commenting earlier, he goes, but what about all along the second hole there, all along on 18th Avenue? And it just doesn't seem to be a problem. So
Those trees stop 90% of it.
just go like that on that
I
one.
don't think they'd stop my drives, but.
You may have mentioned this, but as far as tournaments, how many do you do a year? Buck?
Oh, gosh. It depends on what you call a tournament. Big ones where you're talking 144 players and they, have the whole course. There's probably about 18 of those a year, 15 to 18 of those a year. Then we have other 40-player groups that, that you're not really.
Do you have a standard price per person, per golfer on those tournaments or?
Yes, we have a contract price and we try and keep it consistent with everybody, so we're not showing favoritism or anything
Yeah.
like that. We book.
Okay,
Any other questions from council?
good.
Are there any questions from the public?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Alex Walker, Rotary Club of Lemoore. Really excited to hear the updates. I am curious. You touched on it a little bit. It's probably solar, but I am curious. Like, what are you most excited for that's going to be coming to the golf course potentially? And like, what would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
Next year should be a good year for us.
Most excited for the way golf is trending, not just in Lemoore, but nationally, because golf is on an uptick right now. So I'm most excited about that. Most challenging, the thing that scares me every day, and it's not just at Lemoore, it's everywhere, it's water. And accessibility to water, where it's going to be coming from in the future. I'm sleeping good right now because we had a good winter and I've got water districts at all of our courses that are prepared to sell us water, but without water, that's what scares me the most challenging.
Any other public comment or questions? Thank you, sir. Item 1-2, Street Saver Pavement Management Software, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Rivera is out.
Yeah, I was
Today.
gonna indicate that our Public Works Director, Frank Rivera, is ill tonight, and Brandon's gonna make the presentation. I wanted you to get an update on this. I find this program an excellent program and a very well thought out review to stretch our street dollars for pavement. And also, I think Brandon's gonna talk about, maybe I'm the only one excited about it, but after all these years, there's a better slurry project that's really lasting longer and filling more of the cracks, and I think it will be very effective for our use. So with that, Brandon?
Yeah, so we use a program, and I believe this is countywide. It was implemented right before I got started with the city with KCAG, or KCAG as we call them. And it's called Street Saver, or Pavement Management System. And so if you could go to the next slide for me. Do I have access to it here? Okay. So the pavement management program is a systematic process for managing streets and roads, which focuses on maintaining pavements that are already in good condition and improving pavements that are poor. So the city is responsible for repair of approximately 100 centerline miles of streets throughout the city. So that's centerline, not two-way. And then the process overview. So basically this program allows us to look at all our streets inventory, last inspections, calculations based on rehabs. And just whenever we put in a rehab, it will automatically update whatever the last calculation was. It'll update to what that is. We can manually override that based on our calculations and our observations of it. But the system typically does it on its own. And then it has the maintenance strategy. So slurry, chip seal, thin OL, thick OL, reconstruct. It gives us the possibilities that we can do, the budget needs analysis, so approximate costs based on what we put in for linear square foot for those rehabs as they continue to go up. Scenarios and GIS mapping, so it kind of create projects for us through this software. Which is it this button right here? Can you go ahead and click the button for me? So Lemoore's PCI, which is pavement index condition, we're currently at a 71. So most of our roads combined are good. This is based on the 2019 inspection, which we were rated at 71. We've had some rehab since then, so we're still right around that area. So we're considered to basically be in very good condition. Even though we do have some roads that are considered poor, it is an average. So we have a lot of our main roads that look nice. We have a lot of PFMDs that look good. And then we have our very poor roads that throughout the city, but it does average out to a 71.
It's a hell of a curve.
The curve is, we do have some really low scores. But it is road maintenance is very expensive, and the PFMD areas make it a lot easier, but there are certain areas in the city that are very tough to get to. And it's hard to justify taking a neighborhood road as opposed to redoing like a Fox or a Cinnamon with the money that we are allocated. And then on the next slide, we have our project scenarios. So this is for 2024, and I apologize, I can't quite see it from here, but this does kind of go through some of our scenarios for those streets, the length and the surface type, what we would do to it, and the approximate cost. So these are just scenarios that it'll run for us. GIS mapping. So this map shows, based on the color coordination, the good streets and the bad. So it takes every section of road and will map it out for us based on its PCI. So you'll see a lot of our roads are green. We have some yellow, some red, and some purple. There is a legend there. I can get you guys this GIS map on an actual bigger screen that's not in this little PowerPoint. If you guys would like to see it on a bigger area. This road maintenance project right here, this goes over the annual project that we're going to be having. It's going to be coming up here in the next couple of months. So we're going to be doing some slurry seals and things of that sort to these areas here. A lot of them are PFMDs. Yes, ma'am.
The slurry seal, is that what was done in Hampton Road like a year or two ago?
We did do a major slurry seal there. I think we did a pretty thick one, but yes.
Okay.
And good segue into that. You coordinated that perfectly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there is a new slurry seal that we're going to be working on. If you could prep that video for me. So typically the slurry seals are just kind of oil over the road, but there is a, I believe it's called micro crystal, is a micro slurry seal. And micro surfacing, and it uses like a fiber mesh within the oil, and it is a slightly more expensive, but a very long-term wise, the cost effectiveness of it is much greater than a traditional slurry seal. So it's a rehab type that we're going to be looking at to extend the life of our roads. And to maybe help extend in years down the road, start hitting some of these more needed roads. But if you can go ahead and play the video, that'll show that treatment that we're very excited to start trying.
roads is good, this new for as long as possible is a priority in maintaining the city of Kingston's road network. Adherence to this sustainable goal guides the city's selection of materials and replacement techniques. Where possible, a method called microsurfacing is used to extend the life of the asphalt. Microsurfacing is a cost-effective pavement preservation strategy employed by city contractors, which involves applying 2 layers of material. The first layer is a seal coat consisting of asphalt, water, and construction aggregate, material like sand, gravel, crushed stone, and particulate. This layer fills minor wheel ruts. The first layer is followed by a second and final mixture of asphalt emulsion, fine crushed stone aggregate, and water to further protect the road surface. Each treatment is applied in a thin layer designed to seal the pavement and prevent water from getting down into the road base to reduce deterioration, extend the life of the road, and create a surface that offers a coarser texture for better skid resistance and a safe wearing surface good for up to 8 years. Microsurfacing costs 3 to 5 times less than traditional applications. In addition to cost savings, these technologies are more environmentally friendly, use fewer materials, and can be constructed much more quickly, reducing the impact of construction on traffic.
So the goal of the microsurfacing is to avoid overlays as long as we can. As you guys have seen, when we do overlays, they do take quite a long time to tear up the road and completely redo it. So being able to do a microsurface is a much better rehab that can help extend the life of the road. You go back.
We haven't done those previously, right? This
No.
would be, okay.
We're gonna be looking at doing them coming up soon. So, and this kind of shows the next slide, please.
Wait. I had a question about that one. I don't know. I feel like I should ask you questions. Yes, this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what is it? Is it D Street that I'm thinking of?
That D Street project will not be on this list, on what it's showing there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's,
So the annual road maintenance project, that is something we use with local funds,
oh, that's
to kind
right.
of do, and that's what this is. The D Street rehabilitation is going to be SB1s. That's its own separate CIP project.
And when is that? When gonna happen again?
Hopefully this summer. Should be
Hopefully.
going this summer.
Yeah, that road is,
And that'll be from the city line all the way to Lemoore Avenue. So program updating, this kind of shows you when we start getting into the fair range, $1 for rehabilitation kind of brings you back up to the good and satisfactory. However, when you start getting into the serious and failed roads, it's basically, they estimate $4 to every $1 when you let it get down that way. So when we have to start doing overlays and major reconstruction of roads, it is significantly more expensive than just keeping up with maintenance. Next slide, please. So ultimately, this program allows us to view reports and graphs, accurately plan. We can start seeing, we have a program that allows us to see where the PCIs are, what roads are failing, and where we need to go. And then it also allows us to create more scheduled, especially for PFMDs, to create more scheduled routines to make sure that they're staying on top of those roads to avoid overlays in all PFMDs for as long as we possibly can. And that is it. Do you guys have any questions regarding the program? We also have one of our street engineers on the Zoom call as well, if you guys have more technical questions about the treatments. But any questions?
Yeah, I've got it. So let's take Silverado.
Okay.
That's about a quarter of a mile. And when does that come up on your list?
I'm trying to, is that one part of,
It's off of 19th Street.
is that one part of PFMD Zone 2?
I have no idea. You tell me.
I'd have to pull it up on the map.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'll pull it up real quick.
Okay. I had a hard time seeing it on your map here. That's why I asked.
Can you go to the project map for me real quick? I just want to see if it's on that list, but I don't think it is. Can you pull it up on the screen for me?
Right here, Frank. Where else? Right here.
So close. I heard you twice tell me it's right there, but,
I'll let you guys point it out to me.
well, because it's right next to that city park. There you go. Can you scroll up just because it's right above the 198?
Yeah, it's very well. Okay, yeah. So it looks like you've got it marked as yellow.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Give me,
So what does that mean?
so I believe part of that area is, it looks like based on that is going to get rehabbed. If I'm correct, so coming from 19th, I don't think from 19th all the way through Silverado is part of the PFMD. I can double check that for you. But I know a small portion of that zone, I believe, is a PFMD, which will be part of a maintenance. All PFMDs coming up, most of them should be getting rehabs.
Well, the reason I bring it up is if you look at that road, it could be a beautiful road. But it's not. It's got a bunch of patches all over it.
I'm sorry, it's got,
It's got a bunch of patches all over it.
Mhm.
And so when you rehab a small section, you get a higher score on this average,
Correct.
but the whole road is not really good.
So the whole
Well, so-
road is not one, so, and I can show you kind of on the screen as well, or not on the screen, but on the program. So Silverado in itself is not going to be one specific zone. They're actually cut into pieces.
Yeah, I know, I could tell. I mean, you look at the pavement, you can.
But
see-
it's also, it's scored that way. So it's actually scored in, so like Silverado itself is cut into two. So if half of Silverado is good and half of it is bad, we actually have two separate scores, not one.
Yeah, I know, but if you take a good and a bad score, what do you get? You get an average.
We get a 71.
Yeah, right. But the road is bad, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes,
Okay.
so, but the part
So-
outside of the PFMD is a little bit more difficult for us to maintain.
Well, road's a road, you know?
Mhm.
The other thing is on 19th, the approaches on both north and south to the overpass. Those are our responsibility. Right?
It depends on, so up to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, I think Frank had mentioned at a prior meeting that, the approaches are ours, the asphalt is ours.
I think everything on 19th leading to the concrete is ours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that in this mix?
So it is on, it's on the pavement management, and as we come up with new scenarios for doing them, unfortunately, that-
The only reason I ask is over the last 2 years, last winter and this winter, they've really taken a beating and, there's some holes starting to develop.
yeah, and we're gonna be working on trying to patch some of the holes for some of those ourselves, as far as local maintenance, without having to do an actual CIP project for them. We're gonna start trying to do like crack filling and things of that sort locally. But as far as when it comes to slurry seals and things of that sort, those are gonna be a little bit more difficult. 19th will, as a main road, is going to be,
Yeah.
when it's ready, it's gonna be maintained. But roads like Silverado are gonna be a little, outside of the PFMDs are gonna be a little more. But yes, those are maintained and they're running our reports every time we're running them based on their PCIs. And then as they get closer and closer to really needing maintenance, we go out and inspect them again, make sure it is based on the PCI calculation and start working budget scenarios.
Okay, thank you.
What is the difference between the green and yellow on this map? Oh, never mind. Is that what that means?
Fair.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's fair.
But everything that's highlighted is going to be part of the project.
Correct.
Okay.
A project.
This
Everything
is,
that's-
this all is one project coming up.
Okay,
So you're doing, the legend is green means good, I guess. What is it?
green's good.
Green is good.
Wow, good or satisfied? Factory.
Is that the same legend from both maps?
I think so.
Can you please pull up both maps for me? Click to the other one. So yeah, that legend is the same as both of them. So it's the green on that second one is going to be the project areas, not their road condition.
Gotcha.
So, okay, so the green is what you're gonna be doing.
Not on this map right here that she has up currently, those are every road as they're colored, but the one with the annual project is going to be, the green is what we're actually doing.
That one is.
And that'll be coming up, that's gonna be coming to you guys soon for a full project.
And those roads that we're doing in the green.
Yes.
Those are, in what condition are those roads?
So kind of at the northwest corner,
Uh-huh.
those are, I believe that is one of our PFDs. That one's in a fairly decent condition. But they have their own funds, so we're gonna be doing them. And then everything that's not in a current zone is pretty bad.
I can speak to my road. My road is on this map and my road is like reverse undulations. If you go down my road, it's the reverse of bumps. So it's pretty rough.
Now, what equipment do we have? I mean, I know we have I just found out we have a crack sealing
Mhm.
machine. Do we have anything else besides obviously the truck that I see around town that's got the little skid in the back? It's cold patch.
Yeah,
Are
so
we
we're
hot
able to cold
patch?
patch and we've looked at the hot patching. At this time, we haven't purchased one yet. And we do have the crack sealing.
So we just have the crack sealing
Mhm.
and the cold patch truck. Can we do hot patch with the cold patch truck?
No, we would need to get the attachment for it.
Attachment for it?
Mhm.
Okay.
But we're hoping that with the crack sealing internally, that we can help prevent some of the water damage that creates the bigger issues through that internally. So we're getting closer and closer. And then with this year and with this program, we're creating more of an annual maintenance to make sure that something is being done to a road every single year. And hopefully get back to, our lowest road is no lower than a 60 is my ultimate goal. But it's gonna take some time.
This
Crystal,
is,
could you scroll to see West Hills real quick? Oh. Okay. Thank you.
the area, this may or may not pertain to the road, but I got a call today from a resident who was, lives out there by the new development that's going in east of the high school.
Okay,
And there's some markings in the street and on their property on the south side. Any idea what that is?
if I had to take a guess, it's going to be a USA Dig markings. So anytime we get a call for anything that's going to be being dug in and they have to mark where those lines are to make sure they don't cut them. So that's typically what markings are for.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I noticed in your presentation, it said that this. Can you remind me what it's called? Micro
Microsurfacing
servicing
was not in there.
lasts up to 8 years. How long has this technology been out for? Because I know it's new to us, but how long has it been out there for?
I think it's been quite a while and we do have Orful on the line. If you can unmute him, he can probably answer that. He's a little bit more knowledgeable on the actual treatment itself and has been successful in other cities utilizing it.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so microsurfacing, it's been around for a while. It's been used since like the 1980s. So, but the thing is that the technology with the actual fiber in the mix, it's actually something fairly recent. So I would say maybe within the last maybe 5 to 8 years, we've been seeing more of the fiberized mix in itself. And the thing is, the microsurfacing with the fiber, it allows us to apply it on streets that are a little bit more distressed, just because the fiber actually gives us a little bit more strength on the actual course. So yeah, so it's a fairly newer technology. It's been used for quite some time. It's definitely been proven that it's much superior than a non-fiberized treatment.
What's the cure time on that?
So if we apply a chemical on it, it could cure within like 30 minutes.
And the fiber one?
Yes.
Okay, that's the 30 minutes. Okay.
So the lifespan of about 8 years, is that a conservative figure or is it like tried and true?
So it depends on the actual existing condition of the road itself. So again, if we're applying it on a fairly decent, good condition road, it should last 8 years. Again, we could apply it on streets that are a little bit more distressed, more cracking, maybe a little bit more failure. And it will make it much better, but it will last a little bit shorter. And we've seen it last about 4 to 5 years on really bad roads.
And
Thank you.
Orful, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also going to depend on the road type that we put it on and the traffic counts that those roads are getting. So the difference between a Lemoore Avenue and like a Silverado would be different. life.
My
Correct, right.
experience with slurry seal goes back to the eighties where we, in one city, we were trying to do them every 4 or 5 years. But that's after crack filling and letting the road, the traffic in residential areas beat it down. So 8 years is a real progress. And with this thicker slurry, some of the small cracks, we no longer have to do it in a 2-step process. It will cover the small cracks. We still have certain large ones that we're going to have to fill, but it's a really pretty good advancement in it. Particularly that we're not paying double the cost to get close to double the service life.
Correct.
That was my next question. Do you have to, the process is, do we have to grind it down and then go, or is it just goes right over the top of it?
Orful, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so we just apply it directly on the street. So it would just, we just sweep the street, right? A couple passes, and then we just could apply the actual treatment itself.
Typically, if we're gonna grind any part of it, at that point, we're probably just gonna do a complete overlay of it.
So I figured, I just didn't know if this process, so.
Yeah, so we would typically grind out only the sections that are really bad. So if it's a really bad section, we'll grind it out and then we'll replace it, and then we'll micro over the entire road.
You know, 71 may seem like a high score because we notice the bad roads a lot more than we do the good roads. But I heard today that Hanford's score was 63. So hopefully with this new technology and our using the pavement management system, we'll continue to stay at that level and hopefully move it up over time.
I just want to point out that Mr. Northcraft just said that we're better than Hanford as far as our roads. So I just want that on record.
Do I get credit or blame for that?
Credit. Any chance I get. Any other questions from council?
Well, just a clarification again. So much of this is tied to the landscape lighting districts.
So it's gonna be tied to your public facility maintenance districts. The LMDs are not part of this as they don't have road
So it's
maintenance.
the yellow.
It's just the PFMDs are going to be, because their property tax pays for their maintenance of that, so they're gonna be ones that get consistent and nicer roads. Ultimately, my goal is that hopefully, like PFMD, I believe it's 2, it's the really big one next to LMD 1. As you go down Liberty, you can see the 2 different sides of the roads and how drastically different it is. I'm hoping as they see PFMD 2 continue to look better and better, that it entices them to let me put an inflator on them, so. A little bit of a goal,
Now,
a lot of it.
now is any of this grant money?
Not for these, no. These projects right here, grant money will be separate projects.
Separate, okay,
This is just our local funds and our gas tax funds,
from the
opposite of SB 1.
CalCog, yeah, okay.
Any other questions from council? Are there any questions from the public? Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I think my first question was answered. I just wanted to ask it again to clarify, just to make sure I'm understanding. So the micro surface it serves a repair function as well. It's not just an additional protective layer. And then the second question was regarding the Street Saver program itself. I was curious about the limitations for its potential to maybe identify bike lane projects. I'm not committing to anything tonight, but that's something Rotary is interested in.
So to answer the first one with the microsurfacing, mostly all of our treatments are repairs, and as well as a protective. The goal is to get the best cost effective for both repair and longevity of it. The bike is constantly being looked at as it's part of the general plan. So as we're redoing roads that have bike paths in them, and if you have any questions on that, Jeff Cohort is right over here behind me. He can answer those for you. And those are being looked at. So whenever we do an overlay that has a plan of a bike path, we will widen or do whatever we need to do to get the bike path in there, as well as ADA.
Any other questions from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, sir. Item 1-3, utility billing software implementation update. Ms. Valdez.
Good evening. Bring up my slide for me, please. So just giving you an update on where we're at, we're pretty much at this point, we are business as usual. All of the fixes have been made and put into place. Our payments online, we have recently updated our website within the last week. We have made the decision to offer both Tyler payments through the customer self-service and Paymentus, the old system, as we are still in contract with them through June of 2025. So if you could go to the next slide. So we just updated the website online bill page to make it look a little bit clearer. And we want to encourage our residents to use the citizen self-service portal as much as possible. We did turn on the EFT automatic payments through there. That is a free service. We submitted the first round of those payments last month. We turned it on very late to the month, so we only had 4 accounts that were on there, but it went through as intended. This month, we do have 64 accounts that have signed up for it, so I'm sure that we will gain traction the longer that it's out there.
Funds transfer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to just interrupt you.
Yes, you
EFT. What?
What's it mean?
Yeah, what?
Electronic funds transfer.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I just,
It's an auto draft to your bank account.
yeah, I get it, but I'm saying that on your website, that EFT button or hyperlink, however you want to call it,
Yes.
that's, I don't know. Mm,
You don't like it?
no, I
What do you
don't.
want to say?
I don't know.
Push here to play?
I don't have control over that
Oh, you
portion.
don't?
I mean, that is just the design of the citizen self-service portal itself. The
Okay,
only thing we can change is our logo on there. Like,
gotcha.
yeah,
Sorry.
those
I
are just the features that it comes
Yeah,
with.
it's just hard to know that that's what that is, like, cause I don't know, I don't click on stuff that I don't know what it is and. Hmm. All right, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm done talking.
Okay.
Stop looking at me.
So our late fees, we did not charge late fees for the last 2 months while we made all of the fixes. Those will resume again this month. If you want to go to the next one. Our payment plans, I still have tickets outstanding with Tyler. I have not had any traction on those, and we're continuing to follow up on them daily. Just waiting on them at this point. I did work myself to make a manual fix on these accounts, and we fixed it in the production environment. I loaded the problem to our test environment because I still want Munis to go in there and figure out what the problem is and fix it for me. But I have found a workaround and we are moving forward on this. And so that's pretty much it. We have fixed everything that was an issue. The last piece of our update really is being able to turn on the one-time payments, which is being able to use your credit or debit card within the customer self-service portal. I'm just waiting on the sales team to respond to me regarding limitations on the payment amount, and we will get that feature turned on as soon as that happens, hopefully in the next week to 2. Okay, any questions? And
The first slide that you showed us, if you go back to that one. It, first slide. Or excuse me, I guess it wasn't the first slide. The third slide, maybe? That one. That's what shows on the website?
yes, right now.
Okay.
That's what we updated it to.
I have to say, I've never been on it, but I did get a couple of calls, or I should say one call or one request that could you make the font a little bigger for some of us senior citizens who?
No, they can't change it. They can't change the EFT button either.
There is a zoom
seriously.
option within your browser. You can make your browser window
Well,
just
you know, listen,
bigger.
some of us are just, we don't have a 12-year-old around to change our font, you know, so.
I can see what I can do with IT. IT is in charge of this page, yes, so we can see what we can do.
I said, all I said was I'd make the request. That was the. Mhm.
I mean, if it helps, I missed it too the first time, so I had to get walked through it as well. I'm not a senior yet. Any other questions from council?
Now, the company we had before to the company we have, or we're sharing it. Did we get any tractions about is there a big deal about having two systems? Is it more work for you guys or is it just?
It's not necessarily more work. I mean, we're already used to processing the payments out of the old system, so we have a process in place for that. So it's just another step that we would have to do anyways, to do the Tyler payments. And then when we terminate the contract in June of next year, we'll just eliminate one step. It really is like a 2-minute process. It's not a big deal.
I just
Yeah.
want to point out real quick, there is an accessibility tab on our website to enlarge the font. It's required by law. I was just notified that it is on there, so you can click on that and enlarge.
In defense of fellow council member Lyons, I think it would be good if we just, at least on the first page, said electronic funds transfer and then put the ETF in parentheses so people would know what it is.
Okay.
Can you do that?
I got Frank to agree with me on something. I just want that to be known.
But it's in the record.
I
Yeah,
don't,
okay.
I don't know if she could do it though. Sounds like she can't, so.
The remarks for the instructions to sign up for the EFT, we can put a little blurb there, yeah.
Good.
That'll work. Any
You
other,
got your fix.
Yep.
any other questions or comments from council?
Good
No,
job.
good
Jocelyn.
job.
Good
Thank you
job.
for,
Thank
I know
you.
it's been kind of a tough job for you dealing with these issues and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Frank and dealing with Frank too.
And the
So I would
EFT.
just like to inquire at this time, are you looking for any further updates going forward, or are you satisfied at this point?
What do you have next coming after this, coming after the,
Like I said, the last piece of it is just being able to turn on the one-time payments through the customer self-service.
but I thought we had another, I thought,
That is Tyler Payments, if that's what you're thinking.
yeah, in terms of the software package that we purchased, I thought there was another module to it.
Another module, I'm not sure.
HR, or was it? Permit,
It's
permitting, or
it's
something?
different.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, there's.
we have 3 left to implement. We have EPNL, which is our permitting and business license side, EAM, which is our asset management, and then the Parks and Rec module.
Yeah, it would be, I would prefer if we can get updates in terms of when you're starting them and how it's going along, so.
As far as utility billing, we're good with that. As far as the utility
I
billing.
think so,
portion.
unless you want to bring something to us, the new feature or something, you know,
Yeah,
like
the count-
ETF or something like
The
that.
council would ask for
Yeah.
a monthly update on the utility billing as a result of the blip that we had.
Yeah.
If we're done, if you're happy with that, we can continue to give you updates on the
Sure, on the other
implementation.
modules
of the
as they
pilot
come
system.
along.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
See you next month, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, is there any questions from the public? My apologies. I mean, are there any questions from the public?
Dominic, probably a little more. I just have one question. With the EFT, electronic funds transfer, Stuart. Is that the specific amount of the bill or is it a set fee that we would pay every month? Thank you.
So EFT will draft the amount of your bill each month, and there is no service fee for it.
Any other public comment?
Yeah.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to regular, excuse me, regular public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. The public will have an opportunity to comment on items on the agenda once the item has been called and the mayor opens the item to the public. Is there any public comment? Mr. Walker, I knew it. Start that clock. Just kidding.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. It's great to be back. I first wanted to begin by thanking Mr. Northcraft and you, Madam Mayor, for attending our recent Rotary Club meetings. Really appreciate having you there. Want to send an invite to the rest of council. We'll give you a great lunch, guaranteed. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about what Rotary is doing for our community and why I'm very proud to be here tonight. This Friday is the deadline for our annual scholarship application. This year, we're excited to announce 8 awards for $750. So if you have a high school student at Lemoore High School or Lemoore Middle College, please encourage your students to apply. The deadline is this Friday, as I said. And we're also really excited because this is a merit-based scholarship. So we're not looking necessarily at their grades. We're looking at their service to our community, their leadership in their schools, their involvement in sports, et cetera, and really helping these kids get to their educational goals. The next thing I wanted to share is that on the 27th, our Rotary Club is very proud to be building 30 beds. This is a continuation of one of our longer projects for the past 3 years, a partnership with Sleep in Heavenly Peace. To date, we've built and funded 93. And these beds are really important because we give them to children who are currently sleeping on the floor, whether they're foster kids or other reasons that they may not have a bed in their home. And it's really special because we provide the mattress, the bedding, the pillows, the blankets. They get to customize it, if it's Spider-Man, princesses, whatever they want. And it really has health benefits, not only in terms of their mental health, but their own physical health as well, increasing their performance in school, their overall well-being. So this is a really important project in our community that we're proud to be continuing, and also wanted to extend an invite if any of you would like to participate in that bed build as well. But overall, we're very proud to be serving our community, very proud to share these updates. And if you have any questions, just please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would love to take part in that if you could let me know.
Do you know when it is? What date, when the bed build is?
We're currently scheduled for the 27th of this month, so it's a Saturday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comments? All right, we'll go ahead and move to, there are no ceremonial presentations, department and city manager reports. Mr. Northcroft.
Thank you. I mentioned that our public works director is ill tonight, but let's start with our police chief, Mike Kimball.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Got a few things to put out. Just a reminder, every 15 minutes is scheduled for next week on the 25th. In preparation for the summer, our CSOs have been hitting the winter weeds and weed abatement really hard. In the last few weeks, they've picked up over 70 properties in the 3 weeks alone since they started it. And then lastly, it's bittersweet, but Officer Tom Duvall has honorably retired from the Lemoore Police Department. He dedicated 22 years to the city with over 30 years in law enforcement total. So we wish him well in his retirement. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Then our community services manager, Ray Greenlee.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor and Council. I'll start with recreation. We are finishing up soccer. I think we have 2 weeks left. We have opened up our summer soccer league for registrations. So that's what's currently going on with recreation department. Over to the building division, I'll give you my quarterly update on Panda Express. They were looking at today, but it's not going to happen. We went out there and did a final with them today. We walked it, we created a list for them. They're looking to finish the items and call us back on Monday with the expectation of opening next Friday.
So their grand opening scheduled for Friday is going to be like literally their opening day?
That's supposed to be their opening day. They're going to do training with their cooks and staff, and then they're going to have like an evening get together, have food and stuff like that internally.
Nice.
And then hopefully have a grand opening.
Friday, the 26th.
Yes.
Yes, correct. And as far as the update that you would want on Tyler Tech, actually, I am responsible for the building side, the rec side. And with Tyler Tech, I'm actually responsible for that, for the building department and also recreation. So we're currently been in training for several, well, it seems like forever, but several months on that. We're working on that, trying to get to the goal of having it up and running by July I believe it's July 8th or 9th. So we're working on that stuff. Recreation, currently, we don't have a date yet on recreation. So as we get closer, we'll get back on recreation again. So
How about the car wash, that corner on 19th?
the car wash, their plans, I believe they're civil. Yeah. So we're waiting on civil approval. Planning has already approved it. And then with us, we have it at Interwest. They're going through plan check.
So tell me a little bit about what's gonna happen on that corner, particularly with sidewalks on the south side of the street.
That I will have to turn over to Public Works. We do the on the building side of it. I don't know, do you have any answers on it? Step aside here. You may know.
Yeah, so Jeff Cowart, city engineer. The plans certainly show a 10-foot wide sidewalk on the south side. Which is propagated from, and there's some signal improvements.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you at all.
There are some signal improvements along the southwest corner there, and also putting in sidewalk 10-foot wide. along
And
the
so
south
how
side.
far will that sidewalk go, west?
It will go along their entire frontage, which will go up to the dialysis. They are putting full street improvements in later. There's another phase coming up that will put in the rest of the sidewalk.
So
Down to Acacia.
it won't go to Acacia then?
Not with this particular set of plans.
Is there a reason why?
I think at this point, they're required to put in all the curb gutter and pave out. We'll look at that again and see if they're required to go farther, but
When you say required, who's requiring it?
there
They're
was a
requiring it?
deferred improvement agreement.
Pardon me?
There was a deferred improvement agreement for one of the previous projects for that on that site. But they were deferred the curb and gutter and street improvements to.
So who deferred those agreements? Is that something the city does or?
It was a deferred agreement between the property owner and the city.
Okay. So that's on us. I mean, the city makes that requirement, huh? Not to finish out that sidewalk. Not to-
Yes, that's typical improvement for any project coming in to complete their street front improvements.
Could we have maybe a study session on this item to bring that back and get more question and answer?
Yeah.
On this
Yeah.
project?
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so any questions, Nothing?
Nope.
We're
No.
good. All
That's
right.
good.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think there was mentioned the Rotary meeting, which the mayor also attended. I thought was a pretty positive feedback that we got from the group. It's not a cross-section of the community. It's people very interested and supportive of Lemoore. But I thought there was a lot of enthusiasm for helping us face the challenges that we've faced financially. I did indicate to them something I just learned yesterday when it comes to the option of a 1 cent sales tax. Most of us, I think since we're currently getting one cent of the 7.25 cents, that a local option would just be doubling that. But I learned from our sales tax consultant yesterday that the local option actually is calculated differently, and it can be higher or less. And in our case, his estimate is that it will bring in $450,000 more than what we're currently getting in 1 cent sales tax. So I thought that was a positive in looking at that option. The survey that I think you're all aware of that's been done by phone and by email, we'll be meeting in the next week or so, I think, to get that result, and we'll be releasing that information to the public as well. And we're working on continuing to look for money saving and money and revenue raising opportunities. The more you look, you get down from $1 million to the 100,000 to the 50,000 to the 10,000 things, but every little bit helps. So we're continuing to try to do that, and we are finalizing the budget. And that's moving along on schedule. So we'll be getting back to you shortly for that.
Okay, moving on to consent calendar. We have item 4-1, approval minutes, regular meeting, April 2nd, 2024. 4-2, approval notice of completion, CIP 23004 annual crack seal. 4-3 approval resolution 2024-07, renewing ordinance 2022-02, and policy 709 of the Lemoore Police Department Policy Manual authorizing the use of military equipment in accordance with Government Code Section 7070. 4-4, approval resolution 2024-08, accepting the 2023 general plan annual progress report. And that's it for consent calendar. Would anyone from council like to pull any of those items? Which one?
I'd like to pull 4-3 and 4-4.
Okay. Anyone else want to pull anything else? Is there a member of the public that would like to pull any of either 4-1 or 4-2? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to accept 4-1 and 4-2.
No motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Garza and a second by Councilmember Orth. Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons,
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Passes 5-0. 4-3, was there a specific question that you had for that, sir?
Yeah, Chief, people in the audience may have seen it too, but there was a recent session on 60 Minutes about non-lethal weapons. And that some police forces were employing those. And I don't know if you guys have ever explored those, but
Non-lethal weapons like beanbag rounds and tasers?
well, beanbag and I had these little pellets and some of them were, they'd target the body and it'd explode and be gas,
Yeah, we
tear
don't,
gas.
those pepper ball rounds, something like that. We haven't used pepper ball rounds in quite a few years, probably at least 15.
Have you any felons use them against you or have you seen them?
No, we haven't seen any around here.
Okay,
I don't, not that I know of.
okay.
Yeah, we do have beanbag rounds. It's in the military. equipment.
Military, yeah,
Yeah,
right, okay.
but that's it.
Thank you.
They're effective.
Well, I didn't
They hurt-
realize they
They are,
had them
you get with the beanbag.
in rifles too. I mean, I didn't know, I would see a handgun, but they also have them in rifles as well.
Any other questions from council?
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? I'll entertain a motion to approve 4-3.
So move.
Second,
A motion by Councilmember Orth and a second by Councilmember Gornick. Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick,
yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yep.
And I vote yes. 5-0. 4-4, what was your
I
question?
was just wondering if the city manager can go over the elements of the general plan that we'll be reviewing in this progress.
Actually, I think our planning director is in the audience, so I think he put it together along with Christie, so hopefully one of you can kind of outline. It's basically an update to the state of where we are on the many elements of the general plan.
Yeah,
So it's
so,
nothing new really that we're.
so every year I submit an annual housing report to HCD and attached to that now it's every year they seem to add something else that you need to do. So this is just a progress report, things that they want to know what activities we've done that we've completed that are in our general plan. So last year, QK actually did a comprehensive update of a progress report. And so it was actually easy peasy for me this year. I just took all the projects that we did and updated the report that we had last year. So this is just annually, this will come to you. It needs to be accepted by the city council and then I just submit it. So
Is it the same report that we get from the city that Councilmember Orth sits on, that where they give us a kind of a scorecard as to the housing elements, in
Rena.
terms of this?
no.
No,
No,
that's not.
this is,
included?
this is actually our general plan.
Okay,
This is showing what activities we have completed. They just want a summary of the things like, are we working towards our goals? And so
But those
actually we've
goals are-
completed
because-
quite a few goals in our general plan.
but those goals don't have do we have the same housing element that the county
Correct.
State asked the county. to-
Yes, that's different. Yeah, this
But
is,
it's not
this
in
is,
our
this,
general
this
plan,
is
so-
just Lemoore. Yeah.
Well, the housing element is a.
And
portion
the
of it.
housing element, actually, will probably be bringing that to you within the next month, I hope. Hanford had some issues. They were below their numbers, so they had to do some things. And then Avenel, we've had some issues with them completing their draft.
But it's-
We
it's
actually,
not-
I
it's-
must give the city of Lemoore kudos because they gave us the draft and we completed our corrections within a week and had it back to them. So
But
thank you.
that particular focus with the county focus isn't part of our general.
No, it's kind of a separate issue,
Yeah.
trying to get that
Okay.
qualified.
Yeah, that's.
So we can be eligible for funding.
That,
and-
the housing element, you have to show that you have, it's not necessarily all about how many houses have you built. You actually have to have vacant land in order for developers to come in and build. So if we were to develop all of our residential, zones, we would actually be, do you call it below the numbers? We would be out of compliance. We have to continually have more land to be able to
What
build
if
residential.
we don't want to?
You can do whatever you want to do,
Well,
but
I
then we
mean, but
can't
things
apply.
don't matter,
Okay, so if
but
we
I don't-
don't, so in all honesty, if we don't, then we can't, there's a lot of grant money we can't get,
Sure,
especially
I would- I
federal
would
grant
assume.
money and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
we try to do what's best for the city and stay in line.
So moved.
Any questions from the public on this item? All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Gornick. Is there a second? Second from
Second.
Councilmember Orth. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Councilmember sorry, Councilmember Gornick,
Yes.
Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yes.
I vote yes as well, 5-0. Moving on to public hearing, 5-1, public hearing resolution 2024-09, amending existing development impact fees. Mr. Brent.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Steve Brandt, City Planner. As you said, this is a public hearing. It is to review a development impact fee study that has been prepared and get your decision on using that study to increase our development impact fees. It's gonna work. Oh, yeah. So Lemoore first adopted development impact fees in 1992. The development impact fees are used to pay for capital expenses. So as opposed to public facility maintenance districts, PFMDs that pay for maintenance, this only pays for capital expenses. So, and it can only be capital expenses that are related to new development. So if we need to put in a sewer trunk line to serve new development, it can be part of the impact fee system. If we're putting in a new trunk line to fix an existing problem in the middle of the city, that should not be part of the impact fee system. So again, so that's the key point to remember is impact fees are only to be used for new development projects that are that the city needs to put in. So the fees have been raised from time to time. The last study that increased the fees was approved in 2017. And excuse me, state law recommends that the study to review and update the fees be conducted roughly every 5 years. So we're kind of right around there. Go ahead. Oh, go back one. So these are the types of fees and the categories that Lemoore collects. So the water system, which would be pipes, any treatment facilities and storage, wastewater collection, treatment and disposal, storm drainage, fire protection, police protection, parks, municipal facilities, community recreation facilities, which is basically the Cinnamon Rec Complex, circulation, which is streets, traffic signals. There's money in there for future railroad crossings that are in the general plan. and then refuse collection. And each of those fees are collected and put in separate accounts so that they stay their own pot of money. So with some exceptions, the amount of the development impact fee that a developer is required to pay is based on the square footage of the building that they're building. So you'll see in the fee schedules that most of them say, here's your fee per 1,000 square feet of building that you're building. The fees are calculated when the building permit is issued, and then they're collected prior to receiving the occupancy permit to occupy the building. If the developer happens to construct certain infrastructure that is meant to be paid for by development impact fees, they can be eligible for a fee credit. So let's say there's a park that's supposed to be built and it's part of the fee system. The developer says, I'll build the park, then we can give him a fee credit on his park impact fees.
Is that a pocket park or a regular park?
It is, the impact fees are actually for neighborhood parks, but yes. Maybe a different example would be if the developer says, I'll build the signal and give me a credit on my circulation impact fees. But if the developer says, I'm not going to build the signal, then he pays his full fees, and then his fees, along with the other fees that we've been collecting, can be put together to pay for the new signal.
Is it a one-time fee?
Yes. There's a one-time fee that's for new development projects only.
Now, when you bring up, I'm sorry, you brought up a signal light. For
Yeah.
instance, you gave an example. There's a possibility if a developer wanted to develop a piece of ground in the city of Lemoore, that development created to where a traffic light has to go there. He has the ability to say, I'm not paying for the traffic light.
He can pay for the traffic light and get a fee credit, or he can pay the fees. So what we've done is we've estimated how many signals we need to build to implement our general plan.
Oh,
And we
okay.
put the cost of those signals into the system. And so instead of especially with circulation, the theory behind it is everybody's paying the same for the infrastructure. If you didn't have a system like that, then the person that was on the busy corner would have to pay for the signal, and the person building in the middle of the block wouldn't have to pay for anything. So this way, they're all paying the same fees. But if the developer says, well, I'm going to build a signal, or I'm going to widen the street, then we have a formula to give them a credit.
Okay.
So are the roundabouts involved in this, any of this for new development?
The roundabouts that are out at Highway 41 were not in the impact fee system, and so that's being funded differently.
Okay.
So, okay, a little bit about the law. Based on some past Supreme Court cases, development impact fees must be reasonably related to the impact created by the development. So that's meaning you can't charge a sewer fee and then go use the money to pay for a signal. And you have to be able to show that the development is causing the impact, so that you say, hey, traffic is going to be increasing. We're going to eventually need a signal here. So there's a relationship between the new development and the impact to the city on their infrastructure. The fees also have to be roughly proportional to the impact being created. And that's what causes a lot of these formulas that are in the study. We have to be able to say, not only we're charging a fee that has a reasonable relationship to your particular impact. So in some cases, we charge commercial development more than residential because their impact is on that particular topic is greater. For ones like parks, we don't charge commercial or industrial at all. We only charge residential. So you have to show that you've got a proportional relationship to that. The court case that put that in place was a city that there was a bike shop next to a bike path or next to a planned bike path. And so the city said, well, you're a bike shop and you're trying to expand, you should build the bike path. And they said, well, yes, there's a relationship between the bicycle sales and the bike path, but we're not causing the need for the bike path. So that's why we have to go through the mechanisms of the study to actually come up with a logical basis for the fees. So the calculation is basically a giant division problem. You figure out how much you need to collect, and then you divide that by the entire universe of people that are going to be paying in the future. So for example, and I'm going to need to get a little closer to this one. So these are the tables from the wastewater fee. The first table shows our total costs that we projected. And so, and by the way, so the water, the wastewater, and the storm drain fees, the costs are based on the master plans that you adopted a couple years ago, where we put out, here's what we're going to need to build in the future. And the master plans actually had cost estimates, and they actually divided out, here's the costs that are because of new development, and here's the costs to fix existing problems. And so the costs that we put into the study are only the new development costs. So you've got the 27 million. You can see down on the second table, there's also the 27 million at the bottom. The distribution, so this is the distribution table. We have all the different types of land use categories, and we know how many vacant acres we have of each type. And then we need some type of factor to say, well, this low density residential, does it contribute a greater or smaller proportion of wastewater than the others? And the way we use that is in the wastewater master plan. There's an estimate of the gallons per day per acre for each type of land use. And so we can use that to come up with a percentage impact. So each then land use gets a percentage impact. We apply that percentage to the total. And so we can see what each land use's dollar impact is, and that's the blue. And then the blue gets transferred to the third table, where you have the impact, and then you divide the impact by the estimated total square footage that's going to get built in those areas, and that's how you get the fee. So it has a logical progression from here's what we need, here's our distribution of how we're going to divide up the need logically, and then here's the fee. So comparisons, a lot of people like to compare. We like to compare with what was the fee before. We also like to compare, well, what are our other neighbor cities doing? Perfect comparisons are really hard to come by. It's a lot of apples to oranges. Other cities don't charge the same mix of fees that we charge. But that being said, I'll say it appears that the single family dwelling fees are going to increase about 11% from what they were. Multifamily are actually decreasing a little bit, but I have a caveat for that in just a second. And then the commercial and industrial fees look like to be increasing 24 and 25% respectively. It should be noted that the costs of construction have gone up significantly also since 2017, and probably a higher percentage than what we're increasing the fees. So when compared to nearby cities and new fees, are in a similar range. Currently Hanford's are a little bit lower, but I've heard they are just about to begin their own study, so they'll probably be raising their fees in the next year. One thing I would add about residential fees. In the past, we charged residential fees by the unit. So it was like you pay this much for every 10 houses, you pay that fee times 10. The state adopted a law 2 years ago that said when you do a new study, you need to adopt the fee by square footage. So now a large house is going to pay a larger fee than a smaller house, whereas before they were paying the exact same fee. So when we did the percentage increases and trying to compare with the past, we tried to come up with an average size house, and so that's what we compared to. But if you're going to build a bigger house, you're going to pay more than 11% more than you did before. If you build a smaller house, you're going to pay a little less than 11% more than you did before.
But your single family dwellings, you're only coming up, it's the lowest increase of all these.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So fee credits, I mentioned that before. So certain improvements that are constructed by the developer are eligible for fee credits. Examples could include if the master plan calls for a 12-inch water line. The standard would be an 8-inch, that we'd only require the developer to do an 8-inch. So we would give them a fee credit for the difference between the cost of a 12 and the cost of an 8. Because you can't go in and make the water line bigger later. So they have to put that in. So we give them a fee credit for that. So there's a list of the types of credits that we'll give them. This system seems to work pretty well to have just a set fee to give. I know some cities say they'll give you a credit on actual costs, which surprisingly the costs that the receipts that the developers turn in are much higher than. So we say, no, this is what we're going to pay you. This is the fee credit we're going to give you, in advance. If you can build it for less than that, great. Don't tell us. If you build it for more, don't complain. So there's a resolution before you. It's pretty long. It has a lot of findings because there's a lot of things we have to say because of state law. It lays out all the fees. It lays out all the credits. One of the things that it does is it says that these new fees are going to become effective July 1st. And that we're going to adopt, you are going to adopt an automatic increase, meaning we don't have to come back to you next year to raise the fee. We will just do it and we'll announce it. We'll post it on the internet and say, as of next July 1st, the fees are going to go up this much. So how much are we going to raise them? There's a thing called the construction cost index that gets published. It's put out by the state. A lot of cities use it, and they put out a percentage and they say construction costs are X% higher than they were last year. That's what we're going to raise it by. And then the amount of the fee credits would also be raised by that same amount.
But
Now,
how about the size of the infrastructure that we want? Are we making sure that we get the best bang for the buck for that?
Yes, because like I said,
we don't want to give them we don't want to give them credit for a 6-inch line when we really want a 12-inch line.
No, we will tell them what we want.
Okay.
And then we will calculate if they are owed any credit.
Are there some things that we would not give them credit for?
Yes, so for example, the only roads that are in the circulation fee system are the major roads, the arterials and the collectors.
Okay.
And so developers are required to build local streets on their own. That's on their own dime. We will, if a developer is adjacent to an arterial street and they have to put it in because that's what the general plan says and that's what we want, then the system is set up. We give them a fee credit for the portion of the street that they put in minus the width of a local street. Because there would have had to have been some type of street there. So you're responsible for a local street anyways, you have to pay for the local part. So they're paying for the curb gutter and sidewalk. We're reimbursing them through a fee credit for the extra width of the pavement.
So how, on the example we talked about earlier about the sidewalk on Bush, is it Bush? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Couldn't we say to the car wash, take the sidewalk all the way down and we'll give you credit on the second part of your development, which will.
we
mean,
could
the point-
do that. It's not really part of the impact fee system because we don't have a mechanism for the next developer who should have put it in.
We'll
to
find
pay
something
us.
for him.
Well, okay.
I mean, all I'm just saying is you know, to have these asphalt curb and gutters around the city looks kind of hokey, you know. And,
Yes, and I think the DaVita dialysis was a special case, my understanding, because I wasn't around when that got put in, but I read up on it a little bit, is the city didn't really know how wide of street they wanted at that time. And so they said, well, then we're not gonna make you put it in yet.
But
But they signed an agreement
Yeah.
to do it now.
But my point is, even coming out of Acacia, you know, we should have, the home developer should have developed that because it came into,
Mm,
it came into a,
mhm.
you know, major artery.
Well, you'd be happy to know we did approve a site plan for more commercial development between DaVita and Acacia on
Yeah.
Bush.
City manager let us know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
So hopefully they will build.
But
very
it's only
soon.
gonna be on one side of the street though,
Well, yeah.
or did you do the whole
The
street?
s- Which street are you talking about?
Acacia. And then,
It'll only be on the east side of Acacia, yes,
you know, I mean, why not the west side? You know?
because we make the other developer pay for that. But
Now, the automatic increases is that, I mean, I know we do it on the PFMDs and they should have done on the LMDs 100 years ago, but that's
yeah,
different argument. So is this standard, like most municipalities are just putting an automatic inflator into it, or?
no, that's a good question. Some of them don't do it. And they are like where we were, where we haven't increased the fees since 2017. Some of them bring a new resolution to council every year. And so the council votes to increase them every year. And some of them do what we're recommending. I've gone back through the court cases and there was actually a court case that says that this method is the best for making sure you're collecting what you want to collect. Because there is a loophole where even if the council's voting every year to increase the fees, if you've got some old map that was approved a few years ago, and then they finally come in to develop it, they're allowed to only have to pay the fees from when the map was approved, which could have been 5 or 6 years ago. But if we tell them, if we have an automatic increase, then that doesn't apply. We close the loophole. It's a quirk in the law.
All right.
But we will, like every 5 years, we'll review this process. again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll need to have another
Is that gonna
study
be- is
in
that gonna-
roughly 5 years, yes.
Is that gonna be in the action we take or recommend the action we take?
I don't know that it needs to.
Well,
The law says you're supposed to do it, so.
You know,
If you want to direct us to come back in 5 years, I'll be
think
happy
that-
to come back in 5
that
years.
makes sense.
I think that makes sense because obviously the last time was 17, we're at 24 now. It's been, 7 years or, since we've done it. Obviously, in the last 7 years, what we all thought should have happened, as you said, yearly, hasn't.
Yeah,
So, and now we're doing catch up. Now we have developers that are now looking at 11% increase and some at a decrease, but you know,
Yeah, I like the idea of the annual,
so do I.
but I also like, I also like the fact that at least the council will have an opportunity to review it every 5 years or something.
Okay, yeah.
I like that.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. I have a couple of questions. What is the time frame on the projects that you had listed on the one slide where you got the figures, the 27 million? Is that like, are we looking at that's like 5-year projects, 10-year projects, 20-year?
That's the compilation of all projects that are needed to develop out the entire general plan. So it could be,
For
it could be
wastewater.
10, 15 years, yeah. And it's based on when development occurs. So we don't usually build infrastructure ahead of development. Although you can make an argument that we did that on the west side.
So, so is there a fee for, or is there a chart for all of those categories that you had listed on one of your earlier slides? Where it said, like all these things here, types of fees. So do we have everything included in those fees in our initial assessment to a developer? It says your
Yeah.
water supply, wastewater, storm drainage, fire protection, police protection. I know we have a volunteer fire department, but we still have some needs in there. So do we-
Yes, so for example, the fire protection puts money into the fee system for
equipment.
future future expansion. We don't, the city hasn't specifically said we're gonna build a new fire station.
No, but we have it in the.
But
general
we're,
plan. We
but
have
we're
it on the
collecting,
list, yeah.
we're collecting proportional fees that could go
Could
to
be
that
used for
sometime in the future.
So
We also can we can also charge for the very first time you buy equipment for a new firefighter.
Well,
So because
let's
the
say-
number of firefighters are gonna increase because of the population increase.
let's say the city wanted to get away from the pocket parks
Mhm.
and purchase some land to create a nice regional park, or kind of like the larger parks that we have
Uh-huh.
around town. That's something that we could do, right?
You can, yes, you can use the parks money to build your own parks.
Let's say if the city wanted to get involved in doing in conjunction with recreation facilities, wanted to develop an aquatic center.
You can. I would, because the community recreation facilities, we don't have a specific list of improvements like we would for water and
I
wastewater.
guess my point
So,
is- would
yeah, I
that be
think
a-
you could.
Would that be an opportunity? I guess what I'm saying is that left up to you, or is that left up to the council or the planning council, or, you know, for us to have some community dialogue on some of these things in terms of,
On how to use the fees.
yeah, or if we even want to do that?
I think without speaking ahead, I would say on some of them, I think there is some opportunity for the council to decide how to use them. For some of the others, like water and wastewater, they're tied to our master plans.
Yeah.
And so they should only be used for master planned facilities.
You know, I go back to the agreement between the city and the high school on the pool.
Yeah,
It's never really worked out well for
correct.
anybody. And so, you know, how do we get out of that? How do we develop something different? You know, that kind of stuff. And that could be a legitimate topic to discuss. Okay.
So, the commercial, fees are going up 24 and 25%. Does that look like that may pump the brakes a little bit on some of the boom in economic development that we've been having?
It's hard to say. I mean, developers are always gonna say the fees are high. In my own personal experience, the impact fees are not what makes somebody decide to build and develop. It's how's the economy going? How are the interest rates nationally? Is this a growing community? Is it a good place to do business? The impact fees is one line item on all their expenses.
And
That said, it's all, yeah, you always wonder, hey, if we raise our fees, is it gonna hurt us? The other cities are raising their fees too.
my other question is, with the automatic increase, is somebody gonna be monitoring that to make sure that with that increase, they're not getting too high where it is stifling our economic growth?
We could probably do that, I guess, at the department heads, because it'll be a combination of community development and finance to actually put that mechanism in place to do the automatic increase, so we can maybe have a discussion.
I think if it's tied to the construction cost index, and I think others will be adjusting, and obviously that means the developer's costs for construction are going up at the same percentage, so it should still be reasonable. The whole concept really is to keep the purchasing power, the adjustment, so that what we decide in 2024 still purchases the same improvements that are caused by growth in 2028 or 2029. We'll probably, our general plan is 2008. We are looking, I think we're projecting in the next year or so to begin that process to update that. So I think this fee structure will be done with the new general plan, because we'll be looking at new improvements, new growth. But, the basic concept dates back to the 80s. Growth should pay for itself. It shouldn't be a detriment to existing people, and that it should maintain, as we double the size, for example, of the population, we shouldn't have the same park system, because that means all the existing people are having to share parks with their parks they paid for with all the new people. So this means the new people will pay for parks at the same level that we have. And I think Steve's right. We have a lot of input, and we do not have a park and rec master plan currently. And I think that would be where we would begin to look at aquatic centers versus go-karts versus more indoor soccer, more outdoor soccer, all those sort of things, and get community input into those sort of things. So we do have some flexibility, but obviously any major new purchase and construction would come to the council for approval. Okay.
Any other questions from council?
I like where it's going, Steve. Good.
Good, thank you.
Any questions or comments from the public? Mhm. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. I'll close the public hearing and then bring it back to council. Any other questions, comments? All right. We'll move on to new business.
You need a motion.
My bad. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution
moved.
2024-09.
To approve the development impact fee study, resolution number 2024-09.
I have a motion by Councilmember Gornick,
I'll second that.
second by Councilmember Orth. Councilmember Gornick,
Aye.
Councilmember Orth,
Aye.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yeah,
I threw you off there, didn't I?
yeah, you did.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
and I vote aye as well. Passes 5-0. And I have a request for a 10-minute break. So we can just hang out for 10 minutes.
Good.
We'll go ahead and move on to new business. Item 6-1, approval resolution 2024-10, adopting a statement of goals and policies for the use of the Mello-Roos Community Facilities Act of 1982.
Thank you. So good evening, council. So 6-1 and 6-2 do go hand in hand. So 6-1, this is just the adoption of goals and policies. So this just goes over what we want to finance and what our goals are in establishing a CFD, which in the staff report on the financial considerations, you can see the long list So in summary, a CFD is going to be a beefed up PFMD. This is going to allow us to pay for police, fire, utility relocations for those areas. It just allows us to kind of help those areas pay their proportionate shares for emergency services. And that was our main focus of this. So as it goes through, it just goes over our goals with this. And basically our entire goal is to fund both streets, lighting, police, and fire are our four major ones for the CFDs. I'll leave this one kind of brief because 6-2 does go more into the specifics of annexing them in and the amounts. But if you guys have any questions.
Yeah. I don't know if I pulled up, were there maps to this?
I'm sorry.
Were there maps to this?
So for 6-1, no, there's no map to 6-1.
So when, are there for 6-2?
So there is a map for 6-2, which is going to be the annexation of the development over by the high school, which is going to be our first one.
This is intended for all new development. and-
Intended for all new development, both commercial and residential.
In the entire city?
New, yes, anything new.
Anything new in the entire city?
Yes.
It'll replace the LLMD, the landscaping lighting districts, and also the.
It'll replace us from adding on to those districts, not replacing what's already
Well,
established.
I mean, we won't continue to use those.
With
this will be
with
the new thing for new.
with
development.
adoption of the statements of goals and policies, we will no longer be doing PFMDs or LMDs from this point on. All
Well,
established ones will stay status quo.
what's the difference between this Melrose and this community facilities district?
So Melrose is just the act in which it
Good.
goes by. So the community facility district, so in the difference between a public facility maintenance district and the CFD is one is the CFD is a special tax. So we do need a 2/3 vote on these to get them approved, which for new development isn't quite a concern because it's typically just one vote anyways.
Right. So do we have any of this on the west side? But so if it was new development, they would fall into this as well.
Anything in particular you're referring to? So well, let me just state anything already established, for example, track 920 with Lennar where they're doing phase 2 or 848 where they're doing the other phases. Those have already been agreed upon with the PFMD. So even though those have not been built yet, the track map has already been approved through a PFMD.
Okay. So, so how do we remedy the other concerns that we have in the city where there is no lighting? Let's say on Cedar.
We can probably start looking at something of this sort that it does get a little more complicated because you're going to be looking at a specific, for example, the development on over by the high schools. They would be the only ones involved in this CFD, so you would be increasing their charges to pay for lighting on Cedar.
Okay. So this is new development. All right. Got it.
Can I ask a question? It's
Yeah.
Probably everyone in this room probably would like it or maybe not. How hard would it be, and if it's even legally allowed, to try to move the other two into?
I was so prepared for this question. But so I've looked into this quite a bit. The hard part is we've had issues in the past just getting an inflator on the LMDs. So for example, LMD 1 is I think like $65, where this is $1,200. So on a marketing term, you're never going to get that to pass. I think for residents, when they see a $1,200 mark, a physical amount, as opposed to say like a 1% sales tax or anything like that, the 1,200 it just looks too high. To get them to pass this, it would be, I would say, impossible. There could be efforts maybe in the future to put inflators on the LMDs, and there are other things that I can, as we work through some budgets for the LMDs that I'm working on to try to remedy those accounts, and make them the best that they can possibly be. But I don't foresee a solution in getting them to a PFMD or a CFD.
Okay. I tried.
Any other questions or comments from council on 6-1? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and open up to the public. Any public comment on 6-1?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I had a question regarding cultural facilities. I'm curious what would constitute under that definition for a potential expenditure for the city.
So these goals and policies are extremely vague. And it even states in here that it is that it's to be financed and shall not be limited to. In our budget, we only have, like, for the 1,200 that I just stated, it is only for police, fire, and public facility maintenance districts. So we're not looking at any of the additional items here at this time. It's more of just to help pay for as the city grows, and, you know, with the 200 homes coming in and like Lacey Ranch and things of that sort, we're gonna need additional volunteer firefighters, additional cops, and this will help pay that without continuing to hurt the general fund. But at this time, we're not looking at the cultural facilities or anything of that sort. My goal was to make a limited impact on the residents that are moving in.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask for future reference, but I am supportive of this item because I do believe in public safety, especially for our police and firefighters, and ensuring that our residents are protected and have the resources they need.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to council for approval of resolution 2024-10. Oh, sorry. Got to be quick.
Okay. Is there a limit to the number of years this will apply? I mean, you're looking 30 years down the road or 20 years, and you have everyone else who's not paying this fee, but yet these new residents are going to pay this fee for 10, 20, 30 years. And what benefit are they gaining then versus the older residents? Thank you.
It is an indefinite. So a majority of the fee is going to be your public facility maintenance districts. That is about half of it. So that is an indefinite. They're going to continue need to have road maintenance. They're going to continue to need to have their lighting fixed and things of that sort. And as far as the police and fire goes, the city in itself, due to their growth, is going to continuously need to fund those officers and those firefighters. So even though the money has been there to continue to do it, with that growth, they still are needed for it. So it's the additional growth from this point on, which those cops will always be needed, and therefore the money will be too. But there is no, it's an indefinite fee.
Yes, unlike the developer fees we just talked about that were one-time fees. This is maintenance, so as long as we have maintenance needs, the fees are going to be needed.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a follow-up?
So are we still going to go ahead with the 1% sales tax increase that we've talked about in the past? How is that going to apply with this fee? Thank you.
I'm gonna stop you before the attorney does. That's a whole different topic.
No, it falls into the same line, I think. Those fees are gonna be used for the same thing. The new tax.
Well, it depends. It depends on what the council decides if they move forward with the 1 cent sales tax, if it's going to be a special or a general. If it's a special, is it designated specifically for public safety, recreation? So those are considerations as well.
I can answer a small part in regards to this. So in regards to these funds, it will continuously be for police and fire. The budget is stated for police and fire. There's a very in-depth spreadsheet for that. But I think the beauty of these CFDs is that regardless of what measures we take, these CFDs will continue to help us bridge that gap. So as costs go up and as things happen and we don't have anything else, these will continue to move with those expenses, and it helps us bridge that gap. So that's where that would help, regardless of other measures that the city takes.
Yeah, but Tom's point's a good one. I mean, we're talking taxes are taxes are taxes. You know? I mean, and we don't have the answer to that, Tom, in terms of the 1% yet, but you know, we'll get there. Yeah.
Yes, any sales tax would be paid by our residents, current residents and visitors, while this would only be paid by the CFD would be paid because of the impact of new residents moving into our community. So there is a difference for that, but both would help support the overall services of the city.
And this does also impact all commercial that has not gone through planning commission as of yet as well.
But that was kind of my point, Tom. Back to your point is this development, there's, I don't know, 200 homes or whatever. Those individuals and residents are gonna get taxed one number, where Lennar over by the college or myself and my subdivision are gonna be a different number. And then others are gonna have, so it is still a point that a handful of people are gonna be paying more for the same services that I get. So it is
This is something that, and obviously we're not the first city to do this. It is moving forward.
No.
I would love to get more residents on it. It would help bridge a lot of gaps and probably significantly lower the cost due to it. But unfortunately, it's the only way we can do it is by moving forward with it. I don't foresee a future of anybody voting this in on an existing development.
So how about Helen? Is that a new development?
Anything that hasn't gone through planning commission as of this point.
I think it's under construction, so I think it must be. through the
Yeah, so
process.
Matt,
Lacy Ranch.
So Lacey Ranch, anything that hasn't already come, like, for example, Maverick has already passed, the Helena has passed. So the drive-through car wash, Maverick, all those have gone through already. It's going to be from here on out. Anything that's like recently purchased that hasn't gone through planning yet, they will be required to add on to these.
Okay.
Seems like the developers knew that we were gonna be pushing this, so everybody just came in real fast recently.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-10?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gornick. Mr. Lyons?
Yep.
Mr. Gornick?
Yep.
Mr. Orth?
No.
Mr. Garza?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Passes 4-1. Item 6-2, approval resolution 2024-11, declaring its intention to establish City of Lemoore Community Facilities District number 2024-01, public services, and authorize the levy of a special tax therein to finance certain services.
So I'll kind of skip a lot of the discussion, since we did kind of just cover that on 6-1. But getting into this specific zone, it is going to be 280 homes coming in. This is going to be the first annexation that we're looking at for the CFD. Looking at the financial considerations, it is an estimated $361,200 total. Now granted, that is split up for different purposes. That is going to be your PF&Ds, which is an estimated 588 per equivalent benefit unit, which is basically your single family resident. But you are looking at probably for police and fire, approximately for those 280 homes, $274,000 due to the CFD, and that's just for the upcoming development that's coming through. So, and then I did want to mention as well, there is a sales tax proportion on the analysis that we have created for this. So any sort of revenue increase that happens throughout the city that pays for these other developments, their proportionate share will decrease, and there is a sales tax credit based on the fee due to the sales tax. So if any sort of measure happened that increases our revenues, their fees will be cut. Might not be huge, but it will be a cut for anything that happens. I just wanted to mention that as well. And I can share the Excel sheets with you guys if you'd like to see it. I can bring a study session if you would like that shows the Excel sheet. It is pretty beefy, but I'd be more than happy to go through it with you guys. But we are looking at a total of about $360,000 a year for both police, fire, and maintenance districts combined. And that is just for the development over by the high school.
Any questions from council?
Now that sales tax that you said that it would go down would be mainly designed around if if we decided to do a public safety tax only, not a general fund one.
It would
correct?
make it a little bit more complicated for me, but it still would, because there still is a benefit with any sort of special tax, then the requirement for the projected, all the projected parcels, their requirement for the police would go down. So that would also bring their cost down as well. So for example, on this one in particular, there's a projected sales tax of like 3.5 million for the city. And then the estimated sales tax for this area that's coming in would be an estimated $52,000. So that 52,000 is cut from the total cost of what the subdivision would cost us. So the whole subdivision in itself is approximately about $411,000 for PFMD, fire, and police. But because of the sales tax estimated revenue that will come in for this development, we cut $50,000 off of that. So again, if there's some other measure that increased that number, then we bring their assessment down as well. And there's a different factor for multifamily, for commercial, for residential. Each one goes down or is calculated differently, but I've been using the single family of the 1,200 just because that's mostly going to be the biggest impact for everybody. Multifamily is going to be on property owners, and then commercial, industrial, and institutional are a little differently, but I figured single family was what you would primarily want me to focus on.
That information probably would have been helpful 10 minutes ago.
I apologize. So I had my Excel sheet for 6-2 to go over because that's where all the financials were. And I kind of actually looked up at you and saw it and was like, he probably wants to hear that, but I do apologize.
Well, it's gonna make me look like a hypocrite right now, but oh well.
Well, due to new information.
Go back and change your vote.
It's already passed. It's all good.
Any other questions from council? Are
Would-
there any?
Would
public-
council like for me to bring the Excel sheet for the methodology used for this?
I don't think.
I'm good.
Okay.
No, thanks.
Okay.
Is there any questions or comments from the public?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Similar to my support from 6-1, I'm also supportive of 6-2, but I wanted to express, based on the dialogue and reviewing the materials, it does appear that in a way that this is like helping us catch up to what other cities are doing, in addition to creating a sustainable revenue source that's going to help ensure public safety. So again, I just wanted to express my support for this item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, I want to clarify some things for myself. He keeps referring to sales tax. This special district is going to be a property tax. So they're going to have to lower their rate for the property tax if there's any increase in the sales tax. Is that correct?
That is correct. Sales tax is used in the assessment methodology for the property tax assessment on our end.
And the baseline is the existing rate. The sales tax rate, so any increase. Right?
Correct, yeah.
I just kind of wanted to make a statement. The housing element is kind of, and in my eyes, I view it as an unfunded mandate from the state. We're told we have to put in this housing, X number of housing, et cetera. But there's no funding coming from the state to fund services for those housing, the people coming in, et cetera, sewer, water, police, fire. So that puts a burden on us to try to figure out how to pay for those services. So this is kind of a help for that in my eyes. So I just wanted to kind of explain that a little bit further, that we could decide that we don't want to grow, but the state's not really letting us do that, and we have to figure out a way to pay for it.
Yes, I agree. And that's kind of where we're coming up with these measures of the CFDs and anything else we can to kind of generate some form of revenue. Because we don't have a choice on a lot of, especially with the laws now, we don't have a choice with a lot of the multifamily or affordable housing. So we do have to kind of move forward with those, but this will help us.
Thank you, Mayor. It still stings.
No, I agree. I don't like it either, but it's the hand we dealt.
I have worked tirelessly on this and I will tell you, I don't like it either.
Yeah.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments from public? I'll entertain a motion to approve approve resolution 2024-11. Don't everybody jump at once. Have a motion by Mr. Gornick.
I'll second it.
Whoa.
And a
I take your
second,
thunder,
No,
Smarty.
I just was waiting for you, that's all.
I have a second by Mr. Orth.
Thanks, Johnny.
Mr. Gornick,
Excuse me, yes.
Mr. Hypocrite.
Oh.
You said it. I'm just,
Oh,
Mr. Orth,
yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Hypocrite, I mean, yes.
Mr. Garza,
I'm not a hypocrite, yes.
and I vote yes as well. It passes 5-0.
Uh,
Thank you guys for having a sense of humor. 6-3, approval of resolution 2024-12, accepting the closeout report for SB2 planning grant program funds. I don't know who's doing that one.
Oh. What happened to our
Management
screen?
Analyst in planning, Christie.
so push the button.
So I'm not here to ask for money. As you know, over the summer, we brought several zone text amendments and ordinances to you, sat through several meetings and adopted several ordinances. This is a closeout report for the grant that funded those changes. We were awarded $160,000 and we used all of it. Some of the tasks that were completed were ordinances that streamlined our residential development standards, our site plan review process. We added ordinances to simplify the ADU development process. We created definition changes, added short-term rentals into the city ordinance so that we could collect the TOT tax. We made several zone map changes so that we could increase development. We changed the zones from those mixed use zones, and that's actually worked quite well thus far. Some of the other things, let me look at my notes here, that we did where we created a housing database on our GIS system that the public can use, and an address database that will help staff, that will help the police department in assigning addresses, and the police department will have a grid that they can use for their system, and the fire department can to expedite emergency calls. There will be everything will be more accurate. We'll have information on the GIS system that will show development, housing development that as it increases, it will show those developments. Like you can click on a certain section of the map and it will show you which subdivision that is and how many units have been built and what have you. So developers coming in will be able to utilize that. I know for a fact that I will utilize it because I get calls from potential housing developers, and that's the information they want. So now I can just send them a link and they can get it themselves. Some of this grant money went to the housing element for the review process that we did in, like I said, a week. And most of it went to all the ordinance changes. Anyways. Oh, no, that was the leak. So part of the process, I've already actually requested all of the funds and we've received, I believe approximately $100,000 already. But this closeout report with all of the attached deliverables needs to be sent to HCD so that they can see that we spent the money well. I think that they'll be impressed. We did a lot, created a lot of things for staff to use to give to developers, like for with the landscape plan submittal was very confusing. There aren't a lot of qualified landscape architects here locally. And so this will assist, especially for small development, this will assist their draftsmen or their architects in submitting landscape plans that maybe only need one review or two instead of 4 or 5, which increases the cost for the developer, or even somebody just putting in one single family home. The plot plan guide for single family houses for new developers maybe that haven't developed here before. It gives them just, this is what we need. They can submit it, they're in and out. So just a lot of things, there's a lot of things that were created with this. So I'm hoping that it will really help our department. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from council? Any questions from the public on this item? Mr. Walker?
Not a question, but just expression of gratitude to Miss Bailey and city staff for their hard work and their continued work in improving our community, and want to voice support for approving item 6-3. So thank you, staff, for everything.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? I'll bring it back to council. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-12?
A motion. Second.
I have a motion by Garza and a second by Lyons. Mr. Garza,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Gornick,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Passes 5-0. Moving on to 6-4, report and recommendation employee recognition programs. Mr. Northcott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Employee recognition are pretty standard programs, I think, among local governments. And in fact, in my brief experience with this city council, you regularly recognize employees at your meetings and the good work they're doing. And we had a program in Lemoore for many years, but somewhere around 2014, it was discontinued. I think it's very important, particularly as we're asking a lot for our employees now, but I think all the time, we need to recognize the longevity and the outstanding performance of our employees. So we're recommending that we reinstitute that recognition. Suggested ways of doing it are honoring long tenured retiring employees at city council meetings, longevity awards, which are generally based on every 5 years, and maybe an employee of the quarter and year and employee of the year awards, and maybe a luncheon once a year to kind of recognize and distribute that. Marissa's been working on some options for that. There is some cost to it. It can be prorated among the various enterprise funds that we have. But I think it's give the benefit, the cost benefit is very good. I think that for what few dollars we're going to spend, I think the recognition is very important. So didn't want to do that without the council's approval, but we are recommending approval of reinstituting an employee recognition program.
I got something to say. I like it. I think we should do this on Fridays.
Okay.
I just had to.
I got it. Any
I
other,
do like it though.
any
I like
other
it a lot.
comments or questions from staff?
Maybe Thursday.
I think it's long overdue.
Can we backdate? We had 2 30-year people leave. I was just wondering if we could backdate that maybe a couple
I think
months.
we're working on that.
Okay.
I think one of our retirees is coming back, but the other one we've had a little trouble getting back. She didn't actually retire.
So.
We can't hear you.
Thank you, Marissa.
I did invite, Nacho Carrillo to come to the next council meeting. He did retire back in January. Captain Ochoa, she left and she had many years of service. We did ask her to come back for her to be recognized. We haven't had much luck, so I don't know when that date is or if she's planning to come to council. And I think that's pretty much it. We did, same thing with Mr. Olson. He has like conflicts with his council meetings. So, but we did provide him with the plaque. So,
We're not doing the paper within a paper folder no more, are we?
no.
Okay.
And then it sounds like we need to add another 22-year officer.
Yeah.
role.
Yeah, I did, speak with Mr. Kendall about that, getting him to a council meeting, so I don't have a date.
We could do it all at a luncheon.
On a Friday. Sounds great.
Good idea. So
Is-
Great idea.
Is there any public comment on item? I lost myself, 6-4? No? All right, I'll bring it back to council.
Motion to approve 6-4.
I got a motion by Councilmember Orth,
Second.
second by Councilmember Lyons. Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick,
yes.
and I vote yes, passes
What
5-0.
days are we doing these on? Was that?
Stay tuned.
Okay.
And then item 6-5, report, you might get your answer here. Report and recommendation, alternative work schedule, Mr. Northcraft.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, we started a trial work period in October of 2023. And that was started with some input of employees at the time. And now that we had the 6 months experience, we did survey those employees, and I think that's on the screen. We did ask those, not everyone's involved in the alternative work schedule, so we limited our responses to those that were part of the alternative work schedule, the 410 plan. And we found near unanimous, not completely unanimous, positive response from the employees. Next one. They were fairly in favor of it before we started it. And even more so having now worked with it. And I think there's one or two people that would be okay going back, but generally there's very broad support for that because of the advantages of it. In terms of effectiveness, finding a very broad support, over 90% improves their effectiveness as well as their well-being. Next slide shows that the best advantage to the employee is a work-life balance. I know a lot of us have doctor's appointments and we do our errands and chores on Friday when not everybody, it's not quite as busy as a weekend, but other things are saved, and certainly 20% reduction in the cost and time of commuting is a big advantage. Regarding public feedback, the downside to the public obviously is we're closed on Friday when they may wish to conduct business. We've received some positive feedback and a little bit of negative feedback on that, but the fact that I do want to apologize, the report says we're open 7.5 more hours. That's a typo. We're open 2.5 more hours per week under the 410 than we did under the 8-5. Mainly because we don't close at lunch, and we do. It's my understanding when we closed at lunch, we frequently had a line of people when we reopened, and now we're open all the time. So those people don't have to wait through the lunch break. Public feedback, at least we've heard, since as employees are impacted, maybe people tend to tell us more about the positives, but we're hearing very positive from the public. And about being open at lunch. And then their preferences for lunch break. So I consider it pretty much an employee benefit and somewhat neutral for the public. And given that we are looking at a budget crunch, we're not looking at cost of living adjustments anytime in the near future. We need to be concerned about employee retention. And the fact that the employees are so highly favor of this because of the 20% reduction in commuting time and costs, the work-life balance, I think it will help our employee retention, and it is considered a fringe benefit. Tried to come up with financial advantages, and basically we saw some savings in gas and electricity, but the rates are changing, and it's the weather changes. It's been difficult to really document for sure that there's a fixed dollar amount of savings, but there is some savings to us, but it's basically a zero cost benefit for our employees. And I think it will definitely be a positive factor in our employee retention. As I said, the con is that citizens have to adjust to not being for City Hall not to be open on Fridays. We did consider some alternatives, but they took away from some of the advantages. So given the strong strong positive reaction from the employees and the adjustment that the public has made, we're also working very hard to make things more available through our website and through the internet, so people can conduct business even when City Hall is closed. We are recommending that we continue this period of 4/10 for our community. You have any questions?
Any questions from council?
Yeah, I do. I thought this was a collective bargaining agreement. Why are we doing this now?
No, I looked at the previous deal and it was a trial period and you are approaching the end of that trial period. And so the city manager is asking to continue moving forward with the 4/10.
There wasn't a letter sent to the bargaining groups from the,
It was, but in that letter, it specifically said it was a trial period.
so what does that mean? Just
We-
because it goes to the bargaining groups, it's not a collective bargaining issue?
We met yesterday with the General Employees Association and did meet and consult with them, is what the old term used to be, that we talked about this impact and they were highly in favor of it.
So you're recommending that we close on Fridays?
That we continue the program, yes, which would be closure on Fridays.
I'd have to vote no. I don't like taking away a day of service from the citizens who work in the city and pay the taxes. And so if you want to work 4 days a week, that's fine with me, but I'd like to keep Fridays open.
I was under the impression at last closed session,
Well,
I gotta be very careful on what I say here, but this was brought up and I thought direction was given. Am I not the only one believing that, or?
I do not remember.
No, we're ready. Voting.
I don't think you weren't here.
Okay.
It was when you were on vacation.
Oh,
Oh, and yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we just table it then?
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend that we table this to the next meeting and we can have some things cleared up.
Or let's not say table it till next meeting. Let's table it till we get some clarification.
Okay.
So you don't need to open it to the public then because it will come back eventually, but you just need a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second,
I have a motion by Councilmember Lyons and a second by Councilmember Worth. Councilmember Lyons,
Yes.
Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
I abstain.
Councilmember Bornick,
Yes. Do you need a motion and a vote? I thought it was a motion second instead.
When you have a motion, you should vote on it. Yeah. You have a motion, a second to vote.
I vote yes, so 4 with 1 abstention, so it's tabled.
Madam Mayor, if I could just clarify then, I hope I'm corrected that we could continue the 410 while we're considering it further. Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like you have
Yeah.
consensus for that.
Yeah.
6-6, report and recommendation, revised salary range for the position of city manager, Mr. Northcroft.
Thank you, Mayor. We are hoping to get a excellent candidate to be your permanent city manager, and we are in the process of conducting that. We are finding that our competitiveness for in the salary range of the city manager is below those of other cities of comparable size are at. Our current salary range tops out at 171,000, and the top end of salary ranges from 166 to 233. So we are not as competitive, and I really recognize that increasing salary, the city manager's salary is spread over a lot of different zone enterprise funds, but some of it comes from the general fund. So it does have a minor impact on the general fund, but we're looking at a city, someone that would be in charge for you of a $40+ million budget. And I think the quality of a city manager and the tenure of a city manager would make the 30,000 increase that we're recommending very cost effective in terms of having somebody that is on top of that $40 million plus budget and does a good job for you. So we are recommending that the salary be revised up to $201,400. It's a top end. If you approve that tonight, then we will aggressively market our opening and the opportunity we have for some outstanding person, hopefully that is at a good match for our community and a good time in their career that they would want to make a move to help guide the future of this great community for the next many years. So that's our recommendation.
Just a clarification, Kevin. So we're recommending the base to be 157. Or are you going to move the?
Yeah, so it shows.
Yeah, 157,802 to 201,400.
To 201. Is 201 high enough, do you think?
Well, I think it's key to have it start with a 2. I think if people are quickly looking, that kind of catches your eye.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was looking at the spread there and I was thinking that the 2 would be a little higher, but more like 215 or 220, something like that. But I like the idea of increasing that amount. Could you also, if there's no issues there, I wouldn't mind bumping that up another $10,000.
Couldn't we go through negotiating on that? Couldn't we just
Leave it open?
to negotiate?
No.
The state law requires that we set a salary range, and unfortunately, there's so many things the state decides for us that we can't leave it open, subject to negotiation. We have to
You can
list the
negotiate
salary.
within their range.
But you can't put OBO at the end of it, huh?
We could, well, previously we put under further consideration, and now this is the further consideration.
Well,
we could set the range and say depending on qualifications.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's kind of how we did it last time.
I just, looking at the applications and I guess I was thinking I would like that top figure to be higher, like maybe 215, something like that.
Yeah, I like a nice round even number. I was gonna say 210.
Okay, well, we could,
All right, I'll go with you, Frank. I'll say the 215, just because you gave me the button.
what, if you want to set a new high top of the range, then we will adjust the other steps to comply, to fit into our salary range schedule.
Just
So
sit into
if you-
your.
yeah, if you say the top range is 215, we can work
You
that
can
out.
work that out. Okay, good.
And then the bottom range will go up, obviously,
Yeah.
from two,
That makes sense, yeah.
157 to whatever.
Is that, all right, good.
So that doesn't mean someone would automatically get the top number.
No.
No.
You
Just
have to
negotiate
negotiate.
within that range. yeah.
Exactly, okay, yeah. Everything's a negotiation, or best off.
That sounds good. Kev, could you also give us an update on the timeline and the number of applicants, if you've got it at the top of your head?
As of last week, I think we were up to 27 applicants. I think you've received all of those on a confidential basis. We're hoping to get a much broader circulation throughout the state, at least people that might be looking for.
Has the deadline closed?
It's depending on qualifications,
Okay.
so that does two things. It means we have ability to extend the time, and it also means that if people are interested, they shouldn't wait. They should get their applications in fairly quickly.
Is there a closing on it though? I thought,
No.
I think this discussion is supposed to be on salary range,
Hmm.
not on the process of hiring.
Yeah, I was just asking for an updated process.
Yeah, and you could potentially tie it to why you are increasing the salary range because you've gotten so many that maybe don't meet the qualifications. And so what you're trying to do is increase the qualified pool for the city manager position.
Yes, and there are some individuals who are qualified who may not want to come for the range that we've got. So that's the other issue for focusing.
Well, I like your recommendation as it is now, as it's written, so I'm gonna vote for this.
Is there any questions or comments from the public?
Randy Reader, employee. My only comment on this would be when looking at this, this is an issue that we have from the top to the bottom for every position. The higher up it goes, like the more, crucial that employee is. But my recommendation to council would be that if we do start looking at this for the city manager, that, in the future, we probably start looking at this for every employee classes. Every employee class is severely lower compared to their class and comp. So it would be something definitely to look at.
Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I wanted to echo my fellow audience member in those comments. And this is something I've been saying for over a year attending councils. I know I've been absent for a little bit for school, but I want us to be competitive as an employer. I want our city to retain its staff and its expertise in-house. And I think this item specifically is a positive step in that direction, as well as echoing making sure we're ensuring a competitive wage for all our city staff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
I wasn't meaning to be out of order, but I thought you were getting off topic a little bit, so that's why I said what I did. But my question is, if we have a salary range, do we have steps in there that are set? So that after a certain period of time, he gets an increase over a number of years, so, yeah, okay, thanks.
They're usually annual steps.
Yes, our range is, we have 5 steps in our range.
Maybe a step more steps. A wider range.
And for that last comment, Mr. Reed, if you didn't say what you said, you wouldn't be Tom Reed of Par Avenue.
Stu.
So we do need a motion or?
Yeah, clarification.
Yeah, you would need a motion to approve with the increase to 215.
I'll make the motion
I have a
to
motion-
keep it as is.
Okay.
Sorry.
I thought we were gonna get to call you a hypocrite. There's a motion to approve the
Success.
revised salary range and position as it is written. Is there a second? I second. So I have a motion by Councilmember Garza and I second. Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
I vote yes. Lyons,
No.
Orth,
Yes.
Cornick,
Yeah, I'll go.
Oh, hypocrites.
It's getting late.
so it
You
passes.
can't afford it. Sometimes you can't afford it, you can't
Yeah.
afford it.
The 201.
Okay. Moving on to city council reports and requests. Mr. Garza,
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Lyons.
I spoke with the Commission on Aging, everything's fine there. I did speak with, the young man that is our mosquito abatement person, letting me know that this upcoming meeting, he's going to be missed. He's not gonna be available. And I looked at my schedule, I'm not available. So it looks like we need another alternate.
Can we do that? Can we send somebody else?
You can send someone else. I just don't know if they would have any voting authority when they're there, but you can definitely send someone else to take
Okay,
a
Mary,
report.
would you like to go?
When is it?
I'm kidding.
We can't afford for Mary.
Yeah,
Can't afford
we
her,
can't
no.
afford you, 215. It is going to be on the 16th of May at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Looks like I'm going. Because none of y'all can go in the morning, right?
Nope.
Frank?
No.
Frank can go. All right. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, that's all you have?
Mhm.
And then
I got-
Councilmember Orth,
I don't have nothing.
Councilmember Orth?
Yeah, a couple things. Today there was a big meeting up in Sacramento of, State Water Board. And, looks like, a number of the GSAs were placed on probation, including the South Fork Kings, which we are a part of, which, the city of Lemoore is. We'll see what happens with that. As like some of the, more senior farmers have said, I'm gonna pay a lot more money and get no more water. So which is really kind of sad. The city manager and I, Kevin, met with Lemoore Naval Air Station brass. It was a great meeting. They were very accommodating. They've got a very interesting project that they're requesting interest in. They've got about 11,000 acres around the base that they're looking for energy, water, and one other area that they're looking for interested parties to not only assist them, but possibly also assist us. We talked to them about that. They were very encouraging and willing to assist us in terms of some economic development activities.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was I thought that was really good. It was they were one interesting fact that I think I could share because it was a public meeting. I did not know that we have all this issues going on with you know, the Chinese buying farmland around here. Well, I guess the solar farm that's north of the base was Canadian, but they found out that it was actually owned by the Chinese.
North or south?
So,
South, I think.
and they were worried about that too. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. But, obviously we all know what happened the next day, but they also indicated that they're in the running for the next, the 6th generational fighter. And they would know something about that relatively soon. And if that occurred, that would mean a significant amount of additional growth for our area. a very, very positive meeting.
I just want to mention that the ceremony museum, birthday celebration for ceremony was postponed from last weekend due to the rain and rescheduled for April 28th. So, make sure you go out and participate in that ice cream social, fundraiser. And I will be heading out this evening. Thank you, council members, for such a quick meeting. I appreciate it. To Sacramento for the rest of the week, I'll be at the Cal Cities Leadership Summit. Trying to see, learn a bunch of things and talk to our legislators up in Sacramento about all the lovely things that they put upon us. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.